Adana was only 10 years old when her life changed forever. She had been a happy child, living in a small but warm home with her loving parents in a quiet village surrounded by tall palm trees and golden farmlands. Her father, Obi, was a skilled hunter, known for bringing back the best game from the forest. Her mother, Nnenna, was a weaver, creating beautiful baskets that people from neighboring villages came to buy. They were not rich, but they had everything they wanted: a home filled with love, laughter, and the scent of her mother's delicious palm nut soup cooking over the fire. Adana was their only child, and they loved her dearly. She had long, curly black hair that her mother braided every morning, dark skin that glowed in the sun, and bright, curious eyes that always seemed to be searching for adventure. But all of that was taken from her in a single day. One evening, her parents went to the city to sell goods at the market. They promised to return by nightfall, but they never did. Instead, the village awoke to the news of a terrible accident. A cart carrying heavy goods has lost control and crashed into her parents' small wagon, killing them instantly. At 10 years old, Adana became an orphan. The village elders gathered to decide what would happen to her. They knew that she had an aunt, Ebere, her father's only sister. It was quickly agreed that Ebele should take her in and raise her. She would be safe with family. One of the elders had agreed. Blood is blood. Blood, but blood was not always kind. Adana arrived at her aunt's house, carrying only a small cloth bag filled with her parents' old clothes and a wooden idol her mother had carved for her. She stepped into the house with hope, believing she has found a new home. Ebere's house was bigger than her parents', a large compound with three separate huts, a big cooking area, and a wide courtyard where her cousins played. It was not as warm as her old home, but it looked comfortable. For the first few days, Ebere acted kind. She cooked good meal, gave Adana a mat to sleep, and even let her sit with the family during meals. But that kindness did not last long. One evening, as they sat eating, Ebere's eldest daughter Amaka sneered at Adana. "Why is she sitting with us?" Amaka muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. Ebere looked at Adana, her eyes narrowing. That night, she called Adana aside. "You are not here to enjoy it," she said. "You are not my child. You will work for the food you eat." From that moment on, Adana was no longer treated like family. She was given an old tattered wrapper to wear. She was no longer allowed to sit at the dining table. Instead, she ate the leftovers from Amaka and Chidima's plates. When there was no leftover, she was told to eat outside with the dogs. Adana's new life was filled with endless work. Before dawn, while her cousins were still asleep under warm blankets, she was up, sweeping the house, fetching water from the stream, and preparing food that she would not be allowed to eat. By the time the sun rose, she was already exhausted, but the work never stopped. She washed plates, washed clothes, scrubbed floors, and pounded yam until her arm ached. When she made a mistake, like spilling water, burning food, or even sneezing at the wrong time, Ebere would beat her up. "Useless girl," she would scream, striking Adana with whatever she could find: a broomstick, a shoe, or her bare hands. Her cousins, Amaka and Chidinma, enjoyed watching her suffer. Amaka was the proud and selfish one, always demanding the best of everything. Chidinma was worse. She was cunning, pretending to be kind when adults were watching, but cruel when no one else was around. They made sure Adana never rested. If she finished her chores early, They would spill water on the floor just to make her clean again. If she sat down for even a moment, they would run to their mother, lying that she was lazy. Only Chijioke, the last born son, treated her with kindness. He was just 7 years old, too young to understand the full cruelty of his mother and sisters, but old enough to see that Adana was being maltreated. "Here, take this," he would whisper, sneaking her a piece of meat or fruit where no one was looking. Sometimes she would sit with her in the backyard while she ate her leftover food, but there was little she could do. One day, things would change, he said softly one evening as they sat at the dim glow of the moon. Adana wanted to believe him, but every day things only got worse. One of the only sources of her comfort in her life was the dogs. Ebere had three large dogs, Nana, Kobe, and Dogo. They were meant to guide the house, but they had become Adana's only true friends. At night, after a long day of suffering, she would sneak out to the backyard and sit with them. She would stroke their fluffs and whisper her pains with them, and find comfort in their silent companionship. While Ebele threw her food on the ground and ordered her to eat with the dogs, they never fought her for it. Instead, they wagged their tail as if telling her she was welcomed. One night, after a particularly brutal beating, Adana cried herself to sleep outside. When she woke up, all three dogs were coiled around her, their warm bodies shielding her from the cold. "You are my real family," she whispered, hugging Kobe, the gentlest of them all. As Adana grew older, the maltreatment worsened. She was no longer a helpless child, but a young woman. Ebere's cruelty turned from physical punishment to emotional torment. She was never allowed to wear nice clothes. When visitors came, she was hidden away like a secret shame. And worst of all, Ebere constantly reminded her that she was nothing. "Nobody would ever marry a girl like you," she said one day. "You are a slave." It was a cruel lie, but Adana began to believe it. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. A visitor arrived at the house, a wealthy merchant named Obina. He had heard whispers about a beautiful, kind girl who lived in Ebere's house. When he saw Adana, his heart was immediately drawn to her. She was different from the proud, arrogant girls he had often met. "I wish to marry her," he declared. For the first time in years, Adana felt hope. Maybe this was her escape. Maybe this was her chance to finally be free. But she had underestimated Ebere's wickedness. That night, her aunt and cousins plotted against her. Amaka, who had always believed she was the most beautiful and deserved the best, refused to let Adana marry a rich man. "She is nothing but a servant," Amaka hissed. "I deserve that marriage." And so a wicked plan was set in motion, one that would crush Adana's last hope and push her to the breaking point. Few months later, Adana sat in the dark, her heart pounding in her chest. The wooden storage room where she had been locked smelt of dust and damp earth. Her hands trembled as she pressed her ear to the door, listening. Outside, the sound of celebration filled the air. Laughter, drumming, and the cheerful voices of guests congratulating Amaka on her wedding. Tears burned down Adana's eyes, but she refused to cry. She had cried enough. Now she had to act. She could not stay here, not after everything they have done to her, not after they have stolen her one chance at happiness. She needed to escape. As the night deepened, the house grew quieter. Most of the guests had left, and only a few drunken voices could be heard. Adana tried the door again, but it was still locked. Her hands sank. How was she how was she supposed to escape? Then she heard a whisper. Adana, Adana, are you there? I am here, she whispered back. Hush, my child. Mama Nkechi said, I have a plan. A moment later, a small tool slid under the door. Use this to open the lock, Mama Nkechi whispered quickly. Adana's hands shook as she picked up the tool, a simple metal wire. She inserted into the keyhole, twisting and turning. Her breath held tight in her chest. The door cracked open. Her heart pounded as she stepped outside, her eyes scanning the compound, and the moonlight cast long shadows, and for a moment fear gripped her. What if they caught her? But Mama Nkechi grabbed her hands. Go, child. Run before they find you. Adana's throat lingered. Thank you. No, child. Thank yourself. Mama Nkechi said softly. You are not meant for this suffering. With that, Adana turned and ran. But as she reached the black gate, she heard someone whisper her name. Adana! She turned to see Chijioke standing there, his little face filled with sadness. Where are you going? He asked, his voice trembling. Adana knelt beside him and held his hands. I have to go, Chijioke. I can't stay here anymore. Tears filled his eyes. But I would miss you. Adana hugged him tightly. I will miss you too. But but you must be strong. Promise me you will grow up to be kind no matter what they tell you. Chijioke nodded, wiping his tears. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled out a small bundle wrapped in cloth and handed it to her. I saved some food for you, he said softly. Adana's chest tightened. Thank you. She gave him one last hug, then turned and ran into the night. As she ran through the village, she heard the sound of quick footsteps behind her. She spun around, fear gripping her. Had someone followed her? Or it wasn't a person. It was Kobe, the family dog. He ran up to her, wagging his tails, his eyes full of love. Kobe, she whispered, what are you doing here? He barked softly and nudged her hands with his nose. She swallowed hard. I can't take you with me, Kobe. You belong there. But Kobe refused to leave. He sat on her feet, but Kobe refused to leave. He sat on her feet, looking up at her with sad eyes. Tears burned Adana's eyes. Even a dog loved her more than the people who were supposed to be her family. She knelt and hugged him. I love you too, Kobe, but you can't come with me. The sound of voices in the distance made her heart race. She had noticed they had noticed she was missing. She stood up and ran again. Kobe followed. He pursued after her, his palms picking up the dust, his breath coming in short pants. His breath coming in short pants. Go back, Kobe, she begged, but he didn't stop. He ran after her until they reached the village park at the end of the village. Adana reached the bus park just as the last vehicle of the night was preparing to leave. Where are you going? The driver asked. Anywhere far from here, she said breathlessly. The driver nodded. Getting. She turned to Kobe, who was standing beside her, panting hard. She knelt beside him and stroked his fur. You can't come, Kobe. The bus conductor frowned. No animals allowed. Tears spilled down Adana's cheeks. Go back, Kobe, she whispered, but Kobe just whined and wagged his tails. The bus started moving. Kobe, stop, she cried, but he ran after the vehicle. His hand, his legs, but he ran after the vehicle, his legs moving as fast as they could. Adana watched in horror as he pushed himself to keep up. His tongues were hanging out. Abaka watched in horror as he pushed himself to keep up, his tongue hanging out, his body growing weaker. Kobe, no! But he didn't stop. He ran and ran until he collapsed on the road, his breath gone. Amaka screamed. The bus kept going. She turned, her body shaking with sobs. She had lost everything, but she would not stop moving forward. She didn't know where she was going, but she didn't know what would happen next. She didn't know what would happen next. All she knew was this: she was free, and for the first time in her life, she had hope.